Right, lads, gather round. I want to talk about something that matters. Something I've been thinking about since I read what Harry wrote about Sir David Attenborough. And I reckon it's the kind of thing worth sharing with you lot, because it's about more than just a naturalist or a broadcaster or even a birthday tribute. It's about what genuine observation looks like, what real reverence sounds like when someone bothers to actually pay attention instead of just showing up with a prepared statement and a PR team's talking points. Harry managed to capture something specific in his piece. He identified these moments in Attenborough's programmes where the carefully constructed narration would crack open and reveal something rawer underneath. Moments when an animal would treat the old man not as some distant voice in the darkness, but as part of the living world itself. And in doing so, Harry articulated something that only emerges when you've genuinely watched and genuinely thought about what you've seen. He wrote that those moments revealed the purest form of acceptance nature can offer. And that's the kind of sentence that lands because it comes from real understanding, not from a communications brief or a focus group. The whole piece rests on an idea Harry's been consistent about. Wonder comes before protection, curiosity before conservation, and if we want people to care about defending the world, we've got to first teach them to love it. And that's exactly what Attenborough did across decades of quiet consistency and an unflinching refusal to look away from uncomfortable truths. So here's what I want you to take from this, squaddies. There's real power in writing that thinks, in tributes that observe with genuine specificity, and in the kind of consistency that builds authority not through shouting, but through showing up, telling the truth, and inviting people into wonder. The power of authentic writing. What distinguishes genuine artistry from polished performance is precisely what Harry demonstrates in his approach to the written word. A capacity for observation that cannot be manufactured or coached into existence. His tribute to Sir David Attenborough transcends the typical parameters of ceremonial writing because it carries the unmistakable weight of specificity, grace, and a point of view earned through real engagement with the subject matter. This is not the work of someone following a communications brief or assembling approved talking points. This is the work of someone who has actually watched these programs with the kind of sustained attention that allows for genuine discovery. When Harry writes about the purest form of acceptance nature can offer, those rare moments when creatures treated Attenborough as one of their own rather than an observer, he is capturing something that only emerges from deep thinking about what one is actually saying. The sentences land with precision because they originate from real observation, from the specific quality of transcendence that makes these programs matter beyond their informative function. This is the difference between writing that has been assembled and writing that has been thought, between communication designed to manage perception and expression that reveals authentic understanding. Harry's voice in these pages is unmistakably his own because it comes from somewhere real, from having truly considered what makes David Attenborough's work luminous, what calls people toward wonder rather than despair, and what it means to witness consistency and quiet courage in the face of difficult truths. The unscripted truth of Attenborough's greatest moments. There existed throughout Attenborough's decades of work those rare instances when the carefully constructed narrative fractured, not in failure, but in something far more valuable. A sudden gust of wind might scatter the perfect silence he had cultivated. An animal might turn, curious and unafraid, regarding him not as the omniscient voice from beyond, but as a creature like itself, simply present in the landscape. In these moments, one could detect the faintest flicker of amusement crossing his features, a recognition that the script had been interrupted by something wilder and more honest than any words could capture. These were not blunders to be edited out, but rather the moments that revealed the man beneath the expertise, the genuine reverence and wonder that had driven him to spend a lifetime bearing witness. What made these unscripted interruptions so profoundly moving was precisely this. They exposed something deeper than knowledge or technique. They showed us that Attenborough's authority had never truly rested on his ability to explain the natural world, but rather on his capacity to feel completely at one with it, to be accepted by it not as an outsider studying from a distance, but as a fellow inhabitant worthy of recognition. Perhaps that was the purest form of acceptance nature can offer, to be seen at last as belonging. Wonder, as the foundation for care wonder then, becomes the essential threshold through which all genuine environmental stewardship must pass. It serves as a powerful precursor to protection, the necessary awakening before action, the invitation before the demand. Attenborough understood this sequence with remarkable clarity. His method was never one of alarm and urgency, never the frantic drumbeat of crisis that leaves people paralyzed rather than moved. Instead, he offered something far more radical, an invitation. He drew people into a world worth caring about before asking them to defend it, understanding that we only protect what we have learned to genuinely value and appreciate. There is a profound wisdom in this approach, one that recognizes the human heart must be opened by beauty before it can be mobilized by duty. The generation that grew up watching him witnessed not dry abstractions about extinction, but a voice they trusted, narrating the intimate details of a world that deserved their wonder. In this way, Attenborough's greatest gift was not information alone, but the cultivation of a capacity to see the natural world with reverence, to stand as he did in genuine awe of the creatures and ecosystems that share our planet. That wonder, once kindled, becomes the quiet fire that sustains a lifetime of care. The architecture of trust. Through constancy, Attenborough built his authority the way cathedrals are built, not through grand pronouncements or sudden epiphanies, but through the patient accumulation of decades spent showing up again and again with the same measured voice and the same unflinching gaze. His consistency was not the boring reliability of a schedule kept. It was something far more profound. It was a refusal, quiet but absolute, to look away from truths that grew harder to witness with each passing year. While others pivoted toward easier narratives or softer messages, Attenborough remained anchored to what he had seen with his own eyes, what the natural world was actually telling us, even when that truth was grief itself. This unwavering commitment, this decision to keep showing up, keep bearing witness, keep speaking clearly about what was being lost, became the bedrock upon which all his credibility rested. People listened to him not because he was loud or alarming, but because they could sense that he had earned the right to speak through sheer constancy. His authority was the authority of someone who had never once glanced away, never once chosen comfort over honesty, never once abandoned the slow, unglamorous work of telling the truth across 50 years. That is the foundation upon which genuine influence is built, not through moments of brilliance, but through an unbroken line of integrity that stretches across a lifetime. The contrast between narrative and reality. The British press has constructed a carefully curated fiction about Harry, a man supposedly unravelling, isolated, spiralling into irrelevance. They have painted him as bitter and disconnected, a figure consumed by grievance and estrangement. Yet this invented version crumbles the moment you encounter the actual evidence of his engagement with the world. His tribute to Sir David Attenborough in Time magazine reveals something entirely different. A man of genuine intellectual depth, capable of identifying the precise quality that makes Attenborough's work transcendent rather than merely informative. He writes about wonder as a precursor to protection, about the purest form of acceptance nature can offer, about consistency and quiet refusal to look away from truth. These are not the observations of someone spiraling or isolated. These are the insights of a man actively thinking, carefully watching, genuinely engaged with the ideas and people he admires. While the press invented their narrative, Harry was in Ukraine, standing at a mass grave, in Chicago at a First Communion, in the pages of a prestigious magazine, crafting sentences that contain real beauty and real purpose. The contrast is stark and incontrovertible. The fictional version the tabloids needed to tell their story bears almost no resemblance to the thoughtful, observant man whose actual words reveal a life of meaningful engagement and careful attention to what truly matters. The purest, mild form of acceptance. There exists a moment rare and luminous when the boundary between observer and observed dissolves entirely. It happens when a creature, a bird, a primate, a shy forest dweller, pauses and recognizes the human before it, not as a threat or a curiosity, but simply as another inhabitant of the shared world. This is nature's purest form of acceptance, and it transcends the careful distance of study or documentation. In those unscripted instances, when an animal treats the naturalist as part of its own environment rather than an intrusion upon it, something deeper emerges than expertise or technique. It reveals genuine reverence, an unguarded moment of kinship that cannot be manufactured or performed. This is what made Attenborough's life's work transcendent rather than merely informative, not the perfect narration or the technical mastery, but those fleeting instances when the animals themselves offered their acceptance, when he became simply another creature in the world he was trying to understand. Those moments, the ones that caught him off guard and briefly interrupted the carefully composed script, likely brought him the greatest joy of all, the rare privilege of feeling completely at one with the natural world, of experiencing that profound connection that suggests we are all part of something far greater than ourselves. A generation shaped by one voice. Attenborough's narration did more than document the natural world. It taught an entire generation to see extinction not as an abstract concept buried in textbooks, but as a living, breathing tragedy unfolding before their eyes. His voice, calm and measured, possessed a quiet authority that made environmental awareness feel personal rather than preachy, accessible rather than alarmist. There was no demand in his delivery, only an invitation to wonder first, to truly value the world before being asked to defend it. That sequence, wonder preceding protection, became the foundation of how millions came to understand their relationship with nature. His 100th birthday stands as a moment to honour not merely a lifetime of broadcasting excellence, but the immeasurable impact one trusted voice can have on global consciousness. Attenborough accumulated his authority through decades of consistency and a quiet refusal to look away from hard truths, and in doing so he shaped how an entire generation thinks about reverence, about curiosity, and about what it means to feel completely at one with the natural world. His legacy is written not in ratings or accolades, but in the hearts and minds of those who learned to care, because he taught them first to wonder.